Hey, this is my second attempt to get this information out about Air Flight 134 Canada, and I'm going to be remaking it over my original video. So be patient with me as I try my best to get this so it can be seen publicly. Air Canada Flight 143 ran out of fuel mid-air and it had a forced landing. It's a lie. It's a hoax. Well, let's join in a little bit on this. Okay, I shut the sound off because they're recreating the hoax, and I'm going to pause it and just try to fast forward through it. This is what they do in these documentary things. They try to recreate something that really never happened, but to let you know that it was a recreation of, based on the true story, which wasn't really a true story at all. So they talk about after this occurred, there was a lot of discussion of what needed to be done. They needed to have more instruments on these jets, and in particular about the fuel, because the deal was this, that when they took on the fuel, it was in one calculation and they didn't convert it correctly to the other, from the English to the metric or the metric to the English. I'm not sure which direction it was, but the idea was, oh, there was miscalculation, so they didn't take on enough fuel, and that's why there was a forced landing. Now that's supposed to be the captain in the recreation, but here's the actor that plays the captain. And I don't know the name of the actor, but I have seen this actor in movies, television shows, and so forth. So if you know the name, please let me know. Please leave a comment. So as it progresses, they take you to a home and show you a dog. Dog is God spelled backwards. They feel they are gods because they make things up. People believe them, and in a sense they are creators. They're creators of a false reality. That's why they like to bring in a dog. Now this yo-yo here is quite a liar, and he does have slight duping delight. You can see it on the face. And then as he's done with his lies, he kind of winks and bows his head. Trying to go slowly so you can possibly see it. Go backwards. Anyhow, he's got a little bit of a snicker there, and he just sort of winks and drops his head slightly. No more BS. Now, here's where I begin talking about the Gimli glider. Gimli! Lie! Gimli gliders, how they renamed the deal. Gimli glider. They give that name to it because it landed in a military base, former military base. How about that? Isn't that something? That it would land in the former military base, and there's a picture of it. I'm sure the photographers had a wonderful time coming, taking pictures of it. So what is the deal? Well, basically, the deal is this. Jet engines do not need jet fuel at all. Now, I'm going to stop it and try to fast forward it. Now I'm going to talk about my personal experience with this. I was not on Air Canada Flight 143. I'm talking about several years ago. I flew from New York City to Guangzhou, China, and the air flight time was 15 hours, a distance of about 8,000 miles. 8,000 miles, okay? And I was in the air 15 hours. Now, if what they're trying to tell us that jets run on aviation fuel, that plane that I was on, that jet plane I was on, went 15 hours on a tank of fuel that it acquired in New York City. 8,000 miles? Come on. There's no aviation fuel on jet flights at all. So I try my best in my words to explain all this, and I admit that I'm not an engineer, and I admit that my training's not in that field at all. But basically speaking, the air turbine is started by batteries, and as it spins, it's generating electricity and then fed back into the air turbine. I also suggest that the jet itself, because it is metal on the outside, is actually harvesting electricity as it flies. So there's a vast amount of electricity that will keep the turbines turning. It's self-sufficient. And the whole idea of fuel is a complete and total hoax. So the real hoax behind this hoax of Air Canada Flight 143 is that it was the lack of fuel that caused them to force land. But the truth of the matter is there's no fuel on any jet. Now the fuel hoax is used to keep the price of the air flight tickets up, and then maybe to tack onto the ticket some kind of a fuel surcharge or something. I'm not familiar with all of that. But I am familiar with these liars and these hoaxers. And this one in particular here, this Pearson. His last name ends with Son, S-O-N. And that's a code name. And I think they use that because, well, there you are, two reasons. One, Mason, and then they're making fun of the Son of God. So anytime you see a name end in a son, be aware It could also be a pun on sun, worship of the sun, sun worshippers. They're trying to use this little chart to show you the location of fuel tanks. Now, you might believe a little bit a fuel tank could be here midsection, but you can't put hardly any fuel under a wing. I've flown many times, and I've been near a wing, and I look out, it's flimsy, it's thin. There's no way there's jet fuel in a wing. So the only true location would be in the body of the jet. Do you really think that underneath your seat there's hundreds and thousands of gallons of jet engine fuel? Now, I'm not going to any way, shape, or form say that about propeller-driven planes. I'm only talking about jet engines and jet planes. They're self-sufficient, self-sustaining on the basis of the electricity generated. So back to Air Flight 143, Canada. It was all a hoax. Flying to Edmonton, making an emergency stop in Manitoba because they ran out of jet fuel. Nonsense. Lies. A double lie. It never happened, and there's no jet fuel on jet planes. I'd like to thank you for watching. End of video.